Hello, beautiful internet family. My name is Dan Davis, and I'm the creative director here at DansTube.TV, as well as the Fearless Drone Academy, which is the ultimate online drone course for beginners. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the must-know rules and regulations for Australian drone pilots, and specifically I wanted to touch on the DJI Mini 3 Pro that was just announced. I've seen a bunch of people in my comments talking about picking up this drone, and a lot of them are saying this is going to be their first drone. So I assume that there's going to be a lot of new drone pilots entering the space very soon. And I've seen a lot of reckless kind of people in the comments who just think that they can fly however they want because it's under the 250 grams. But that's not necessarily the case. You know, there are still rules and regulations. You still need to be respectful of people. And that's what I'm going to cover here. I'm going to show you an application as well that's really handy for one of the rules. But let's jump into it. Rules and regulations will vary depending on what country you're in. This is specifically for Australia, and I'm going to be using CASA as the reference here. So I will have links in the description below, but they are the authorized aviation department within the Australian government. So legit, that's who we have to kind of abide by in this drone space. And I'm going to be using them as a reference point here. So I will have links below to see the thorough manual and also, what to know as a drone pilot. But I'm going to be covering the main topics in this video. Massive shout out to Danny from Mole Media, as he was actually helping me out with some of these rules, sending me through the links and just helping me with general kind of drone knowledge. So check out him, I'll have his link below. He's got a really cool Instagram with some awesome photos over there. Jumping into the main rules and regulations that you need to know. So this is relating to drones that are under 250 grams for Australian drone pilots. And all of these rules still apply to you, even though a lot of people think that they don't necessarily apply to you. The first thing is you legally can't fly over 120 meters. You need to keep the drone underneath that 120 meter mark. Now it's locked out in the application, so it actually tells you that you've reached 120 meters. It won't let you fly any higher, but it's relatively easy to change that setting. It will give you a warning, but just keep that in mind. It's illegal to fly higher than that. And if you do take photos at crazy heights, post them online, it's possible that you could get in trouble for that. The other thing that is really important, and I think I've seen way too many people in the comments section talking about getting this drone as their first drone, talking about some of the crazy kind of flights that they want to do, and they think that they can fly really close to people, buildings, properties, whatever it may be. But that's not the case. You still need to be 30 meters away from people, cars, properties, all those beautiful things. You need to make sure you're 30 meters from them as you're capturing photos and videos. A lot of people think that they can just fly over people, fly straight over the top of the house, but that rule still does apply to you. Even though you own a drone under 250 grams, you still need to be respectful and mindful of people in the environment. The next rule is related to how many drones you can fly at the same time, and it's just the one. You can only fly one drone at a time. You can't be juggling controllers, trying to fly all different drones. It's just one drone at a time, which is fair enough. If you've flown next to someone, like I've been next to other drone pilots as we've been flying, and you'll find that the signal actually cuts out pretty quickly. It's not the most efficient way to fly if you're really close to other people. So that is one of the main reasons, but also just you're going to be distracted. You're not right. So just one drone at a time, and keep that in mind. If you're flying near someone who also owns a drone, your signal will be impacted by their signal. So just keep that in mind. This is another big rule that not many people seem to follow. I see it all the time in the comments. It's keeping your drone in visual line of sight. So a lot of people launch the drone, they just boom, just beeline it like 1.5 kilometers, 2 kilometers away, and they haven't even tested the drone in any capacity, seen how it's behaving or even really inspected it. They just kind of launch it and go for it. But the thing you need to keep in mind is it needs to be in visual line of sight. That's one of the most important rules out there. A lot of people think they can get away with it and they just do whatever, but in a serious situation when you're trying to get your drone back and you have no idea where you're at, where your bearings are, that can become a real problem. So just keep it in visual line of sight. It makes flying the drone so much easier and you're in complete control then of what's going on. The next rule is kind of just common sense, but don't be taking photos or videos of people without their consent. I've heard a few really creepy stories of people doing odd things with their drones, taking photos, developing them, trying to sell them off, even though they didn't give them permission. So they've gone up, taken a photo of the house, taken a photo of the property, the backyard, all those things, developed the photo and then brought it to try to sell it to that person. Just really bizarre stuff, you know, don't be doing that. Make sure that you're respecting people's privacy. Through CASA's documentation, they refer to the sub 250 gram drones as the micro RPAs. And typically you're not allowed to fly a drone within 5.5 kilometers of an aerodrome. But with the sub 250 gram drones, so the Mini 3 Pro or the Autel Nano, Mini 2, Mavic, or the Mini SE and the Mavic Mini, and all those other drones that are under 250 grams, you're actually allowed to fly within 5.5 kilometers of those aerodromes. There are still a few rules that apply here. The first thing is that basically not operated over the movement area. You also cannot be operating over or in the departure or approach path, and not creating a collision hazard to other aircraft taking off or landing. And you know, that's just, again, one of those common sense kind of things. Like, you just need to be aware that there is a departure as well as an approach path. And that's like the main rule. It's kind of amazing that you're allowed to fly within that 5.5 kilometers of an aerodrome. And that could be an airport, military base, whatever that may be. There is a really good app for this, which I will show you right now. This one was recommended by Mole Media. It's called OK2Fly with the 2. So this one is really cool because it actually shows you the approach and departure paths, which is really nice. And the red areas are showing you where the aerodromes are. So typically if your drone's over 250 grams, you cannot fly at all within 5.5 kilometers. But with those sub 250 gram drones, so those new Mini 3 Pro pilots out there, basically you just need to be aware of this. Like, as you can see in the screen recording, it shows you where the paths are. So this example here, you would just want to fly off to the right. So the Moreton Bay Marine Park, for example, that would be fine to fly because you're not in the pathway there. But if you're over here near the pathway, that's something you just cannot do at all. It gets a little bit more complicated when you look at something like this, where there's multiple directions, multiple paths. So you just need to check an app like OK2Fly and make sure that you are okay to fly, as the name suggests. But that's something to keep in mind. Again, a lot of people just thought, oh wow, you know, I can just fly it pretty much near an airport. No worries at all, but that's not the case. You still need to be mindful of these things, making sure you're not in the pathway and making sure that, you know, you're not being a nuisance. You're not like a hazard to anyone in that area. The next one is similar to what I was saying earlier on in the video, which is basically just not operating your drone in a way that creates a hazard to another aircraft, person, or property. That's a common sense one. Make sure you're 30 meters away and just not flying over people, properties, or populated areas. The next one is something that a lot of people don't seem to follow, but you're not actually allowed to fly at night unless you've actually been given permission and you're a qualified licensed pilot. But outside of that, like, you just can't fly at night, but way too many people seem to do that. Another one that I see way too many people documenting and then uploading to YouTube is they'll like film some sort of fire or accident or something that's going on where there's like police and ambulance and there's actual like emergency services operating and potentially helicopters coming in at some point, as you would imagine. You just see way too many people filming that and then uploading it to YouTube, but that could actually be a genuine problem for the emergency department that are trying to save lives. So that's another rule that a lot of people don't seem to follow. But if you see a fire or an accident or anything like that, don't think that it's okay to just launch the drone and get over there, because you potentially could be getting in the way of people who are actually trying to save lives. The other rule that you still need to keep in mind is that there might be helicopters or like fixed wing small airplanes flying in the area. They might not be necessarily near an airport or an aerodrome, but they still could be operating in the area. So if you do see a helicopter flying by, a crop duster or something, like you might see an emergency aircraft or helicopter that's flying back and forth, at that point you need to cease operation and land the drone. Again, it can be dangerous and detrimental to the people who are trying to do their job. So just keep that in mind. If you see a helicopter coming over, just land your drone and wait until it passes. That's basically everything you need to know as a recreational drone pilot flying a drone under 250 grams. Another thing that can be really handy is getting a pre-flight checklist that just lets you know everything you need to know before you fly your drone. You can get a free pre-flight checklist through the Fearless Drone Academy. Sign up through that form there and you'll get our newsletter, basically our little email feed. And that's where you'll get the free gift, which is the pre-flight checklist, a really handy resource to have. Make sure you look over CASA's website though. Make sure you're ready to fly your new Mini 3 Pro or whatever sub 250 gram drone you've got. And yeah, just make sure to look into those rules and regulations because it is really important and they are there for a reason. We just want to make sure that everyone's flying safe and that we don't have any issues or that the drone industry doesn't get impacted from people who are flying incorrectly or dangerously. So anyway, that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below if I forgot any other like tips around the rules and regulations or any other like important insights that might help new drone pilots. That's the end of the video though. I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.
I'm running your way, but you push me away. Your lifeline, losing your mind. I'm here for you, babe. I've loved you the same this whole time. So tell me, what's on your mind? And